There are cars that are born to be beautiful, there are cars that are born to be efficient, and there are cars that are born just to cause trouble, and the Lotus Carlton definitely belongs to that last group, because it took a completely ordinary family sedan and transformed it into a monster that accelerated faster than the famous supercars of the 90s while carrying 4 people and a full trunk. And even then, the craziest part is not the numbers, but the fact that this car became a headline in newspapers, turned into political debate material, and literally made the entire police force of the United Kingdom panic, all because it was simply too fast to exist at that time, and that is why it became one of the most controversial cars ever made, and today we are going to understand how a family sedan managed to start a nationwide crisis. To understand how this all happened, we need to go back to the late 80s, when the Vauxhall Carlton was just another quiet sedan that nobody looked at twice on the street, because it was that typical car for everyday life, spacious, honest, comfortable, and totally emotionless. But inside General Motors, someone decided it would be a good idea to transform that car into a British response to the German super sedans that were starting to dominate the market, and since GM owned Lotus at the time, the simplest solution was to throw the Carlton into the hands of the English brand and say fix it, and the result of that decision was so exaggerated that it sounds like something invented. Lotus received the Carlton and decided to ignore any limit of good sense, because they changed absolutely everything in the car: engine, transmission, suspension, brakes, and aerodynamics. Nothing stayed original, and the philosophy was clear: take a normal sedan and turn it into a rocket on wheels. And the funniest part is that this actually worked, because as soon as the project was finished, it was already considered the fastest sedan in the world. Something unthinkable for a car that originally was used by families, and that is when the Lotus Carlton started to become a legend, because it was not just fast, it was humiliatingly fast. The engine used by Lotus was based on the 3.06 cylinder from the Opel Omega, but they increased the displacement to 3.6 liters, installed 2 Garrett turbos, reworked almost every internal component, reinforced everything, and created massive torque. And when the whole setup was ready, the car delivered 382 horsepower at a time when the Ferrari Testarossa had similar numbers. But the difference was that the Ferrari had 2 doors and a supercar attitude, while the Carlton looked like a simple sedan with wide tires, and that contrast made everything even more entertaining, because it ran with supercars while carrying the whole family inside. The transmission was another completely insane detail, because instead of using a regular sedan gearbox, Lotus simply installed the manual transmission from the Corvette ZR1, one of the most extreme American sports cars of that era, and by putting that gearbox into a European sedan, they guaranteed the car could handle all that torque and still have short and aggressive gear changes, creating a driving feeling way closer to a track car, except with 4 doors, and this is exactly the kind of engineering chaos that makes Velocidade Oculta exist, because it is the kind of thing that should not have happened but somehow did. For the suspension, Lotus basically created a whole new setup, with reinforced springs, special dampers, and stabilizer bars much thicker than the original ones, and the result was a car that behaved like a true sports coupe, planted on the ground and extremely precise in corners, and in automotive magazines of that era it did not take long before comparisons appeared, because the Carlton made German sedans uncomfortable and bothered sports cars that were way more expensive. And that started to attract the public's attention, but it also started to bother one group in particular, the police. The top speed of the Lotus Carlton officially was 285 km per hour, but without the limiter it reached almost 300, and that number alone was enough to start all the chaos, because no British police car could get anywhere close to that. And when some criminals realized that, they began using the Carlton in escapes, and even driving at normal pace, it already left everything behind. And the police could not do anything because it was impossible to catch them. Car in a chase, and when this started showing up in the news headlines, the population followed the panic, creating the idea that the Carlton was a public threat. Things got so tense that the car turned into a topic in newspapers and even in Parliament, with politicians asking for restrictions and calling the Carlton an irresponsible exaggeration, and that only made the car more famous, because the more they tried to demonize the sedan, the more it became a legend, and people began seeing it as the car that challenged the system, a machine that should not have existed at that time because it was too fast and too advanced for the world around it, and that is exactly what turned it into an icon. The most interesting thing is that the Lotus Carlton was not a technical failure, it was simply a misunderstood car, because it appeared during a strange period when extremely powerful cars were treated as a threat instead of an achievement, and at the same time the public was not ready to accept a sedan capable of humiliating supercars, and that made the Carlton a machine ahead of its time. A bold project that only started to make sense years later when German super sedans took over the streets with even crazier numbers. Today the Lotus Carlton is treated as an automotive myth, a rare machine that enthusiasts worship, because it represents a moment when engineering made wild decisions without asking permission, and at the same time it symbolizes a unique era where someone had the courage to put extreme performance into a car that visually looked totally normal, and that combination is exactly what turns a machine into a legend, because it was not created to please the market but to show how far a sedan could go when nobody set any limits. And if you enjoy this kind of content about the history, the technology, and the curiosities of the automotive world, make sure to follow Hidden Speed so you do not miss any future videos. Here the passion for cars goes far beyond the steering wheel.